Hello, I'm Jeff, and welcome to Snap Talk, your podcast supplement. So the Game Awards were last week, which featured Zelda Breath of the Wild winning Game of the Year among 3 hours of mundaneness. Don't know if that's a word, but I'm sticking with it. But while the event was overall boring, there were moments that caught our eyes that we'll be discussing in the next couple of videos. First up is Bethesda and Save Player 1. This was a PSA about single-player gamers feeling left out thanks in part to the industry focusing on multiplayer, and it featured Wonder Woman herself, Linda Carter. Bethesda would also mention that they would donate $100,000 to the ESA Foundation to fund scholarships for the next generation of game designers, which is nice. Now, two things. One, thank you, Linda Carter. You are a national treasure. And two, you can say a lot about Bethesda and what they did with the Creation Club. You can't really doubt their commitment to making a single-player game. You look at pretty much their entire line of the past couple of years, and aside from Elder Scrolls Online and the Elder Scrolls card game, it's pretty much been single-player focused. So it would make sense that if there were a big company was going to come out and support single-player gaming, it would be Bethesda. And I don't know if it was something that they were always planning on doing, this sort of mock PSA, or if it had to do with things like EA closing down Visceral, who were known for developing Dead Space, which was a good horror single-player experience, as well as developing a possible single-player Uncharted-like Star Wars game that got pushed to somewhere else to become another multiplayer shooter. Or the closing of Runic Games by Perfect Entertainment, who are the creators of Torchlight, as well as Hob, which you're seeing right here. This is pretty much the B-roll of what I had for the review. I'm sure it had a lot to do with the latter, seeing as we've been hearing for almost a decade now how it was going to be the end of single-player and multiplayer should be the focus for the industry, starting with people, I believe Jim Sterling said it really started with Phil Harrison, who I think at the time was with Sony and eventually ended up with Microsoft. And then you had the Andrew Wilsons of the world cutting Visceral, and you had their PR department screwing things up. And really, it's not that hard a concept. The game industry works better when there's a little bit of everything. It's one of those things that keeps getting brought up by people like Jim Sterling whenever a series that had strayed away from its original genre, or whatever, a developer comes back to a genre that they've been known to do after a long time off of it and does it well and it succeeds. It's a concept of it's okay if your game doesn't necessarily have to rake in all the money. It's okay if your game's not like this multiplayer vacuum that sucks in all the money or just plain sucks. I myself like to be told a story by a video game. I mean, I enjoy Mario, I enjoy things that don't have a lot of story, but I like to be told a story, and I think story is best told still in a single-player experience. I know that there's a game coming out that's being published by EA. Joseph Fares is and his development team making a way out, and we'll get to Joseph Fares later. Really, other than that, most stories get told in a way where it's telling it to one player. I mean, you look at something like the Elder Scrolls MMO, and it was telling the story almost as if you were the only player in that online world, but there were like a couple million people who were being told the same story at the same time, so it wasn't necessarily the best possible story that they could have told there. And even if you don't want a story being told to you, sometimes you just don't want to have to deal with other people. I mean, Rich from Review Tech made an excellent statement where when he gets home from work at the studio, he just wants to sort of break away from everyone, break away from the world, and just sort of zone out playing a single-player game. It's not really that different from someone wanting to relax from a hard day by watching TV or reading a book or taking a nap. It's just a way to relax for that person without having to go online on a multiplayer game and just have to deal with that sort of toxic environment that it can be. And even if the entire top-end major publisher developer part of the gaming industry went multiplayer only, it wouldn't stop single-player games from being created. I mean, all you have to do is look at the indie scene, and you'll see great single-player games there. Heck, you don't even have to look that far to find good single-player games this year. There was been so many great ones that came out this year. 4 out of 5 of the nominees for Game of the Year were single-player. You had Zelda, you had Persona 5, Horizon Zero Dawn, Super Mario Odyssey. I know that has some multiplayer, but that's more shoehorned in than anything. Then other games that came out this year, Night in the Woods, Hollow Knight, Cuphead, even though that has some multiplayer. Remains of Edith Finch, Nex Machina, a great twin-stick shooter that I just recently bought and I'll probably do a review on later. It's a great arcade shooter. This game right here, Hob, it's not going to go away. So if you were worried about that, don't. And if you keep saying it's going to go away, stop. Because no matter what you say, it's not going to go away. Because there is always going to be a market for a single-player experience. Just ask Bethesda. And that is it for this episode of Snap Talk. If you liked what you saw, please like, comment, subscribe, and share with others. If you have a different opinion to what was stated, feel free to comment down below and we can talk about it. If you have an idea for another Snap Talk, leave a suggestion below, and if I feel I can get enough material together, I may talk about it in a future episode. I'm Jeff from Some Nerdy Arguments, and I'll talk to you soon.